Welcome back to the Matter of Facts podcast on the Prepper Broadcasting Network. We talk prepping, guns, and politics every week on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Go check out our content at mwfpodcast.com on Facebook or Instagram. You can support us via Patreon or by checking out our affiliate partners. I'm your host, Phil Rabalais. Andrew and Nick are on the other side of the mic, and here's your show. All right, welcome back to Matter of Facts podcast, least professional podcast on the internet once again. My name's Phil, that's Nick, or that's Nick. I can always forget that I've reversed my camera to make my autism behave itself when my left hand raises and it looks like a mirror. But to y'all, it's not that way. Anyway, so before we get to topic, actually, we got to do admin work, because if not, I'll forget about it.
Can't forget it again.
Done that more than once. But after that, we have to have a bone. We have a bone to pick with one of our listeners who's been giving us crap in the comments.
True.
So, first and foremost, promote bad decisions by becoming a patron. This show is 100% patron funded, which gives me the unique opportunity to act like a raging asshole about almost anything, almost any topic I choose, with almost no consequences, as long as my friendly FBI handler doesn't get completely unhinged and upset.
And your wife doesn't get mad.
Yeah, but I don't talk about my wife badly because I'm a good husband. So, and frankly, after 20 years together, she pretty much knows what she's dealing with. So, you know, there is all that. But the patrons allow me to not have to kiss the ass of advertisers, censors, or anyone else. So I get to be me. And
we do.
I'm assuming y'all are enjoying it.
So far.
If not, why would you still be here?
Masochism?
Masochism does have its uses.
It does.
Also, you should buy merch for the vibes from the Southern Gals. Support a small business, support us, get a funny t-shirt. One day we're actually going to sit down and we're going to revamp the shirt line just as soon as we find the right level of like intoxication and coffee and autism to make all that come together.
We could do the patron episode that we were supposed to do where we drink heavily and discuss religion and then get on the horn with them while hammered and discuss t-shirt ideas.
Did I agree to discuss religion while drinking heavily?
You implied that we would have to drink heavily if we discussed religion.
But I don't think I ever agreed to do so. I think it was more an offhand comment, not like a prescription.
Oh, that's fine.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that's going to happen sooner or later.
One of these days, we'll have to do it.
I guess I should go ahead and start saying the Hail Marys now to build up a nice little surplus of them.
I mean, I was an altar boy at one point. It gets you like extra credit, right?
A long time ago, I was a good, faithful Catholic.
Whoops.
I don't know what to tell you, but things came off the rails at a certain point.
They do. They do.
And last but not least, prevent war crimes or invent new war crimes with code MOF at Disaster Coffee. Disasters in my cup, but it doesn't have to be a disaster in your cup.
True. It's very tasty in your cup.
I do have to say, I recently, and that this totally doesn't matter to anybody that doesn't roast their own coffee, but, you know, I roast all my own. It's bunker beans from the store. But I recently decided to tweak the recipe a little bit, so I went a little more aggressive with the roast, and I ground it just a touch coarser. So I have this kind of a parallel to reloading. I have this thing where I'm looking for the perfect bean that is good in a drip machine and okay in an espresso.
Sure.
And the problem I run into is that, like, normally with espresso, you find a lot of people that lean more and more towards dark roast.
Yeah.
But I'm not a huge dark roast fan, especially not in espresso. You get too much bitterness out of it.
I can believe that.
So I tend to go for like a medium dark.
Sure.
But my daughter, love her to death, does not like drip coffee unless it is like full bodied.
Huh. You created a connoisseur by accident.
I'm constantly in this battle where like I want to roast the coffee darker so that she'll drink it on occasion, even though she prefers espresso, while not making it so dark that like in my drip machine, it's just darker than I want it to be. I'm tweaking the recipe, but I think by roasting a little darker and then grinding it a little coarser, I've kind of like given it more flavor and then balanced out the extraction a little bit. So I don't know. That's what comes with roasting your own coffee, is you get to literally just play around with the recipe, because it's the same thing every time. It's beans, you roast them, and then you grind them and, you know, make them into coffee. So the only variables you really get to play with is the level of roast, well, for the same bean.
Yeah.
but the level of roast, and then how coarsely or finely you grind it, and you tweak those variables, and it influences the taste.
I could believe that. It makes sense to me.
Now,
what you were catching sass about.
Yeah. So first of all, Raggle Fraggle said, "Okay, fellas, I need your help making the most of a bad decision. I have a chassis on the way and need to fill it." Before I read the next sentence, I thought we were talking about an automotive chassis, and I was all kinds of bad decisions. And then he said,
"LS swap is the correct answer."
Not always.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I could see a big block 454 in some things.
I would really upset you because I grew up with Japanese cars, and I have. I've always kept my eye out for like a good, decent second gen RX-7.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Those are fun.
Naturally aspirated, no turbos, a really aggressive street port on the rotor housings, and no catalytic converter.
It would be quick. It would be very quick.
I mean, it wouldn't be that quick, but you would hear it for like a quarter of a mile.
Oh yeah, it would still be quick.
Yeah, by modern standards, nothing super impressive, but it would be fun. Actually, I came like this close to getting an old Datsun 280Z.
Ooh,
got sold before I got to go look at it.
That's a shame. I know a guy who has a Gremlin sitting in his garage, and I have considered it, but I had known nothing about cars. So I would have to learn how to do a project car while doing a project car. And that sounds like an amount of time commitment that I cannot possibly support.
That's actually the best way to learn. Is just by
I'm sure it is. But the time investment that it would require would have to get rid of most of my other hobbies. I think. Oh, shit. We have lost Phil. My talk of disturbing hobbies must have gotten rid of him. But, so what Raggle was saying is he needs to find a big bore caliber to have.
That was naughty.
That was.
I don't know what happened. I just got I got the blue screen of death in the browser. It said something went wrong. And I was like,
something clearly did.
Something clearly did.
Task failed successfully. But you're back, and that's what matters.
Yeah, it didn't like lock up the browser or anything. It's just the browser went to something went wrong screen. Never seen that before. Anyway,
good.
But we need to move on from this.
460 Weatherby Magnum is the correct answer. If you're going to get into big bore, go all the way. Go real big. Or go Wildcat. Those are your two possible best options.
So that I lost my starred comments.
You mean like this one?
Are they still starred?
They are for me.
Well, that's magnificently annoying. They're not starred for me anymore.
At some point, Raggle decided to tell us to stop trying to spend all of his money
after
asking us to help him spend his money. Look. If it's not my money, I'm going to help you spend all of it.
I mean,
and I think that's how government works.
If it's not my money, I'm going to encourage him that he needs a night vision scope on top of that thing, whatever it is.
Okay, 375 Raptor could be fun.
I'm not familiar with that one.
It's another Wildcat.
Well, obviously, but I mean, what is it other than a 375 caliber bullet?
It's like a 375 H&H on a slightly different case geometry.
So it's a long action.
Yeah, it's a long action. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. But. So yes, just let that be that. If you ask us to help you spend your money, we're going to acquiesce.
Sometimes we tell you there's a better option at a more reasonable price that will allow you to afford training, a la Beretta A300, which I love mine. Phil's quite fond of his.
Very.
Having shot a 1301 a little bit, I can't say I really notice a difference other than the stock configuration, having a pistol grip, which I wasn't a fan of anyway. I don't know why. I love pistol grip rifles. I don't like pistol grip shotguns.
I'm kind of ambivalent on pistol grip rifles. Like I've shot both and I'm very happy with either. I absolutely detest pistol grips on shotguns.
Yeah.
I have shot them. I've shot them just pistol grip and pistol grip with stock.
Yeah.
I've never liked one. I don't even know why, but shotguns, traditional stocks only for me.
I understand the allure behind throwing a pistol grip on a shotgun. Gets you closer towards the manual of arms of your typical rifle,
but further away from the typical manual of arms of a shotgun.
Yeah,
which
I don't know.
That, not to mention, like, now this is also me, but like, again, because I grew up, I didn't grow up being like a shotgun guy, but I grew up playing with shotguns because friends of mine said, "Hey, you want to try this?" And why wouldn't I?
Right, exactly.
So, like,
and when you go out on a pheasant hunt, what do they hand you?
But at no point in time have I ever, like, the first time I ever messed around with the pistol grip shotgun, the pistol grip was constantly in my way.
Yeah.
Now, that could be because I started off with traditional stock shotguns and I just got used to it not being there. But regardless, when I grab a shotgun, whether it's a pump or semi-auto, I am immediately like, I don't want this stupid thing hanging here. Like, sawzall it off, be done with it.
I agree. I was wrong. It's not a redone 375 H&H. It's a 308 necked up.
Okay, so that,
my bad.
Depending on cartridge length, that could be a short action.
Could be a short action, which would be a lot of fun. I think
I could see that being a lot of fun.
Yeah, it could be a lot of fun. Could be a good brush gun, good deer gun, or a hog gun.
Yeah. All right, so to the topic, 12 minutes in and only one technical difficulty to our credit.
Oh, that's fair.
Food packaging. So this was kind of your idea, and then Stuart asked us what we had in mind, and I pretty much wrote a whole episode just with offhand comments.
Yeah, that's usually how we do it.
Yeah.
So the idea came to me of we've talked before about what kind of food is a good idea to have around, but we've not really gone in depth on how you should care for that food once it's in your custody.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about storing ammo. We've talked about storing water. But, aside from canned goods, you really don't necessarily want to store your bulk food items in their retail packaging.
Disagree.
It depends on what it is.
So there are caveats.
But I don't like the retail packaging on most bulk food items. I don't. But we can agree to disagree on that. Especially flour. I fucking hate those paper bags. They always rip at the stupidest time and they leak constantly.
Mm-hmm.
But
so here's the thing. Like, let's start at this from a perspective of, like, what are our concerns, or what are, in business world, what are the requirements here? So for food packaging, like, the goal is to maintain the viability of the food until you are prepared to eat it. Like, it sounds like a no shit Phil type of thing, but that's the goal here.
Yeah, you want to remove light, you want to control temperature, you want to keep pests out, and you want to keep water out. And if you can, keep oxygen out as much as possible.
Yeah. And depending, I broke this down kind of into, like, how long you intend to store the food, and some of that guides what things you need to do to package and prepare and maintain the food. And at the very end of this, we'll have discussion about, like, maybe tailoring what you want to store based on how long you want to store it.
And a little bit your environment too, because I'm not going to have as much moisture concerns as you are down on the Gulf Coast.
You don't say.
No, I do not.
And I don't have to worry about water bottles freezing in my truck in the winter.
That's true. Water bottles will freeze in my truck this morning, even.
That's gross.
Yeah, it was like 31 this morning. We had our first spring and second spring already. So we're on last false winter. And we should be into proper spring in another week and a half. When the tornado season picks back up next week.
Yeah. That just sounds dumb. But since we started talking about water freezing in your vehicle, I'm putting mobile and short-term packaging together.
I like it.
Maybe I shouldn't have. But here's kind of where I'm thinking. So when I think about mobile packaging and short-term packaging, to me they're kind of going together, because if it's short-term, I'm talking about you're really only trying to store it ostensibly for maybe several hours, several days.
That's fair.
I'm thinking like the mainstay rations that I tend to recommend that are like in my vehicle and they're in my hiking pack and they're in a lot. Frankly, I keep one in my backpack at work.
Yeah.
Just because I've been in a weird situation where somebody decided to have we decided to have a bomb scare at work, as tends to happen.
And now we're staying here for 12 hours.
Well, that happened at about 10:45 in the morning because it was right before lunch. And at the time I usually ate like right at 11 o'clock because I get into work at 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't leave the facility until 8:30 at night. It got so bad they literally like raided the boxes of like snacks that they used to stock the vending machines at work just to give people something to eat. Because like we'd been out there all day, our blood sugar was crashing. We had people who were diabetic who were genuinely having concerns about how do we evacuate these people, because in order to get them off the facility they have to go in the direction of the thing that might blow up.
That's a problem.
Yeah,
that's a real difficulty. I mean, I think you've kind of got two separate things here that both can be talked about in the same way. Like your mainstay rations, you don't have to alternatively package those because those are packaged in a way in which they should be shelf stable, maybe not pest proof because rodents will eat through that packaging
in a split second.
For the most part, shelf stable. As long as they're rated to be good for, which is I think 5 to 7 years on those.
5 to 7 years is what I've always heard. Yeah. But to the point of the packaging, like the packaging is kind of built into that system. It is vacuum bag, it is foil wrap. There is no UV light getting in there. There's no oxygen getting in there. There's no water getting in. That's why I like mainstay rations, because they're literally marine rations. They are meant to be stuck in a life raft when you're stuck at sea for days on end.
They're meant to be stuck on a life raft on a boat and ignored for 5 to 7 years.
Yes.
And still being good probably after their expiration date.
Yes. And that they tend to be my preference for short-term packaging. Like obviously if it's something I intend to eat, like we're going to be out on a day-long hike or a half-day hike and I might bring some Cliff Bars or some granola bars, or I might bring a little thing I might bring my little bitty MSR Pocket Rocket, some extra water, and like some Mountain House with me. But like my big things about mobile or short-term packaging is I don't have to have as serious of a concern about pests getting into it because ostensibly I'm going to be carrying it on the move. I don't have to have a real huge concern about it being like 100% watertight, because if it's watertight enough in a hiking pack.
Yeah, you're going to be consuming it before the water would have damaged it, probably.
Yeah. And as far as like airtight, again, how airtight is it? If it's airtight enough to be shelf stable at room temperature for 8 to 12 hours, it's probably going to be
okay. Yeah. A lot of that stuff you're looking at, like if you're making yourself up, say, a hiking meal, you're looking Ziplocs, or say if you have a food saver vacuum bagger thing, I like those better than Ziplocs just because it tends to be easier to get everything compressed down. And then if I do get into a situation where like my canoe has tipped over and I am in a river, it is as waterproof as it can be. You know, you're not going to have an issue with that then.
So one thing about the food saver bags, and I do like them and I use them frequently. Helpful hint: if it's something you're going to keep in your freezer, I don't recommend doing this because there is a chance you could release the airtight seal on the bags.
Sometimes.
But if it's something that you're using in the capacity you just talked about, where like you're gonna pack it in, it's gonna be in a hiking pack or whatever, you take a pair of scissors, you take the edge where it's like factory sealed and cut a slit.
Yep, you just cut a little V.
Yep. And that is a perfect little spot where you can just grab it with your hands and then rip it open. I mean, yeah, you should have a pocket knife on you, but it just makes a really convenient way to open those up. And by the way, that is also how I pack my loose medical equipment for hiking packs, not for like blowout kits, because like I'm talking about stuff like Band-Aids.
Yeah, non-immediate access stuff.
Yeah, the kind of stuff that I would have in a hiking pack because, you just get little bumps, bruises, scrapes, cuts, and shit you need to deal with on the trail. those kinds of things. I put them in a space saver. I put them in a vacuum bag them up, maybe not suck them like completely down, but like get most of the air out and cut a little slit in the side so I can rip it open. And that way, if the bag gets wet, the supplies stay dry. Like that's really the goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, even just your off the shelf Band-Aids, they don't handle moisture very well. Once you get them wet, that adhesive starts to go away, and then they're really no good anymore.
Yeah.
So they don't stay where you put them.
And in this, I would also say like mobile or short-term packaging. So several years ago, I got away from the idea of having like lots and lots of like the little 12-ounce disposable water bottles in my truck. I've always kept water in my truck, and I actually kept water in my car before I had the truck. Sure. Because again, like there have been times where I've been stuck someplace for longer than expected, and it's really convenient just to have a mainstay ration, 3 or 4 bottles of water just in case.
Yeah.
And I used to make a habit of keeping a bottle in each one of the doors in the truck. And then anytime somebody said, hey, I'm thirsty, just grab the bottle, pop it open, drink it, or, whatever. But then I realized I'm throwing away a lot of water bottles that have had like 2 sips taken out of them.
Yeah.
And I'm not like, turbo greeny, save the earth type.
Still seems like a waste.
It does seem very wasteful. And I don't like throwing plastic in landfills for no reason. So I went out and bought a bunch of 20-ounce Camel bags. And they're not like the big tall ones. They're like, a little bit bigger than an average size drinking glass.
Like these guys.
A little bit thicker around than that. But they fit perfectly in the door pockets of a Toyota Tacoma.
Nice.
And they fit perfectly if you have like a door that has like, kind of the deep cup holders in the doors. Yeah. They fit really conveniently in most vehicles. Nice. So now I have one of them in each one of the doors, and that's in addition to extra water that's in the back of the truck that's less accessible. But anyway, it's the kind of thing that like, I don't know that I would recommend you try to do like long-term storage in a BPA-free plastic bottle, but there are worse ways to do it.
I'll tell you guys this. There are no plastics that do not leach chemicals when heated, when warm. I've been working in the plastics industry for 15, 16 years now, and every single year, the new safe plastics, a few years down the line, we find out, hey, just so you know, it does leach X, Y, or Z with temperature increases. There is, in my opinion, no food safe plastic. There isn't. Good luck getting away from having any plastics contact your food. They are just frankly too useful.
Yeah.
But if you can minimize it, that's for the better. And the best way to avoid chemical leaching out of plastics is to keep them at a stable temperature, because every time you alter the temperature, plastics are in there more and more likely to leach chemicals, especially with liquid contact.
Yeah. Okay, so midterm. Now we have to define this. Short term, mobile's pretty easy to understand. We're either talking about a short-term storage solution or something that is going to be packable or storable in a vehicle. Midterm, I tend to think this is like 0 to 6 months.
I call it my pantry. My standard pantry. I'm not talking about what's in food grade buckets, sealed in Mylar. I'm not talking about your deep storage canned goods. I'm talking your immediate access pantry. So if you guys have a large kitchen cabinet that you keep all your basic ingredients in, that's your midterm stuff. Most of your off-the-shelf packaging is probably okay for midterm storage. If it's not going to be sitting around your house for more than a couple weeks to maybe a couple of months, store-bought packaging is probably fine. In fact, it's probably optimized for that product for that length of time, because that's how long most people keep it.
Yeah. I would say that with midterm packaging, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I really can't see repacking it with a couple of exceptions. For meat, because we do have fridge, freezer, and then chest freezer in the garage. For meat, I find that if the packaging has large air voids, think about a piece of meat that's on like a styrofoam tray and then has a saran wrap over the top, and there's huge air pockets in there,
That'll go bad faster.
I repack that for two reasons. First of all, because getting more air out means it lasts longer.
Yeah.
But also because it's a gigantic pain in the ass to thaw that because of those huge air pockets. Whereas in
can be.
That's
why I like my meat wrapped in butcher paper.
Yeah, but in a vacuum bag with all the air removed, you can throw it in a hot water bath and it thaws very quickly and efficiently. I don't take that point of view with sausage, though, because sausage usually doesn't have giant air pockets in it.
Typically not. Yeah. Any ground meat usually does not, unless you get the unless your store packs ground meat itself and it does it in those foam trays.
And mine tend to, which is why but I also buy bulk packages of ground beef, and I repack it like 1 to 1.2 pounds per. So that my goal is always that once you, because ground beef's going to lose a little bit of weight with the water and everything.
It does, yeah.
I'd like to end at a pound, so I overshoot a little bit.
Yeah, that's smart. And you do lose a little bit cooking it too, in the grease coming out of everything.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like a lot of the steaks we buy, like skirt steak, ribeye, sirloin, they all come in a pretty oxygen-free packaging that's very easy to reheat, rethaw. Chicken's kind of a mixed bag. Sometimes that comes in a tray with a lot of stuff, with a lot of air pockets.
Chicken can be a mixed bag. Sometimes it comes in that just a giant, frankly giant bag of just a bunch of chicken breasts or chicken thighs, and those, well, it's basically just like freezing an individual piece.
Yeah,
just in a pile.
Also, if your meat product comes on like that sponge thing at the bottom of the tray, I highly encourage you to just repackage it. Use a vacuum bag. I mean, like you could just use Ziplocs if you want, but honestly, like a fridge saver or like a vacuum bagger and a bulk pack of vacuum bags off of Amazon is so freaking affordable. You don't have a lot of good financial reasons not to just get one. They're too damn handy.
If you buy the roll of bags, it is about a third the cost.
Can you buy it in anything other than a roll? I've only ever bought it in rolls.
You can buy it in already individually made bags.
That's dumb. Don't do that.
It is dumb. It costs more than a Ziploc. But if you buy it in the big roll, it's like a third of the cost of a Ziploc bag.
Don't buy it by the roll. Buy it by the half dozen rolls.
Yeah, exactly. You buy a case of rolls. I've still got the same case of rolls I bought when I got that stupid thing 5 or 6 years ago. They last forever.
I bought my second one.
Your second roll?
No, my second case.
Oh, okay.
But I will say this much, so even though we are talking about midterm packaging, like I've said, like I repack a lot of the stuff for the sake of like space efficiency, for the sake of preventing freezer burn, because freezer burn is just a pet peeve of mine. My goal is to always have the freezer pretty well filled with meat.
Right.
And have 2 to 3 times however much I have in the freezer in the chest freezer.
That makes sense.
Try to be good about rotating through, but like for that reason, I go through a lot of vacuum bag because I repackage a lot of it to try to like beat freezer burn. But the other thing I was going to point out was, in addition to that, like we already talked about how vacuum bagger comes in super handy for making your own little medical kits
or ammo packs.
It comes in really handy for ammo packs. It comes in handy for a lot of things. I'm going to tell you that if there's something you would like to make pretty damn waterproof one time, a vacuum bagger is a really hard proposition to beat. You can suck all the air out, seal it up. If you want to be extra careful, and I do this sometimes, I'll actually, because like it comes on a roll, so it's open at both ends, right? You got to seal this in, then you put the stuff in, then you clamp this in, vacuum bag it, seal it on both ends twice.
Yep. You can make sure to do that. Sure.
Just in case you get a little pinhole or something where like in the freezer, it's not an enormous problem because once the thing is frozen, it's not going to allow air to like intrude in the bag as easily. But if it's going to be kept at room temperature, then I tend to seal it at both ends just to be on the safe side. Make it to where like you throw it in a bucket of water and nothing will get into it.
I've had really good luck with mine. I've not had any seals come undone on them on their own, except for beef jerky, which poked holes in the bag until I started rolling it in butcher paper first and then chucking it through there.
I've had a couple that I don't think ever really got all the way through, but I think a lot of it was because like when your vacuum bagger is sucking all the juice and the moisture and everything out.
Oh yeah, if it's wet, that can be a problem.
If it's wet, it will not. It'll make a pretty good seal, but not a perfect seal. So a lot of times,
that's that. Yeah,
I'll keep a little bit of paper towel with me, and I'll actually mop up all the moisture and then seal it a second time just to make sure.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it, because that's going to interfere with the thermal process of melting the bag closed.
Yeah. But like I said, other than that, like I do all my midterm packaging in whatever it comes in. Like I've got a couple little bins that are all spices, and literally like we used to keep the spices in with a lot of our second pantry, but then we kept losing stuff because, like you have these big bags of stuff in there, and then you have these little bitty spices that just hid. And the next thing you know, we end up with like six things of like ginger or something, because it was like we can never find it when we were looking for it, and we're like, we must need another one. So yeah, we eventually got some smaller bins to put all the spices in, so we could get a better idea of what's in there. I actually just put salt and pepper on the list. Not that we are out, but because what are your two primary seasonings?
Salt and pepper.
And I have
Crusher
two big
pepper.
Yeah, well, I have two big things of salt in there. I have a couple of smaller things of pepper, but you better have a lot of it because you're going to go through a bunch of it.
If you live out in the country like I do, and it is spring or fall, it is mice season. So one thing that we've gone to is we've got some very large totes that we put that short-term and mid-term food stuffs in, just to keep the mice out. It's just one extra layer, because they will chew through cardboard, they'll chew through plastic, but they're less likely to chew through like a Rubbermaid tote, and then your whatever it is, your chips, your pasta, whatever. They're less likely to go through both.
I also find that it's advisable to, I know this is kind of a back and forth, because like you never want to have these just totes of stuff in a high traffic area.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you that if you put your storage food in a place you don't travel ever, mice are going to get into it sooner or later.
Well, yeah, because the mice are more likely to be places where people aren't, where other animals aren't, because they're trying to stay safe and they're trying to find food. And if they find a place that is safe and full of food, more of them will come there, and they will breed many, many more of themselves.
Now, conversely, like I keep all my midterm and long-term food storage in my garage, which you wouldn't think is a great place to keep all that stuff. Except that because it's right there by the garage door, like that goes into the house, we're going through there constantly. It's right there by my reloading bench. We're in and out of it constantly, because anytime we take something from the main pantry, we replace it out of our midterm storage. If we take anything out of the freezer, we're replacing it out of the chest freezer. Like we're in and out of it all the time. And just the fact that we're stomping around in there means it tends to keep rodents at bay. And if we see ants or roaches or any other kind of pests, we're going to notice it very quickly, because we're in and out of there.
More likely to see it.
We're in and out of that stock every, I would say, 3 days minimum, if not every day. But we do a lot of our storage in the factory packaging. Can rack comes in super handy for something like this.
Can rack's great.
I find that and this is not just midterm, but this is also deep storage. To me, the greatest enemy is not the packaging. The original packaging is usually not bad. True. The biggest enemy, and I'm guilty of this as anybody, is not adhering to first in, first out. Because I'm going to tell you, I have thrown away more shit than I would like to admit over the years, because by the time we realized, that in the very back is like 2 years past expiration date.
Hey, it happens to everybody. It really does. If you don't make a concerted effort to follow some system, whatever your system happens to be for rotating this stuff, it's very easy to knock that thing in the back. I mean, condensed milk, not something people use all the time. It is required to make a decent pumpkin pie.
Yeah, frankly, it's required for a lot of things. I mean, bearing in mind that we talked about my baking supplies.
It's only shelf stable for like 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, it's got so much damn sugar in it, even if it's airtight, it's going to be a bacteria breeding ground.
Oh, absolutely. But it's a canned food. Most people say, the common wisdom is canned food's good for years past their expiration date. A lot of them are.
A lot of them are.
A lot of them are. Condensed milk? Absolutely not. Do not do. Do not do.
I actually recently threw away an entire can of peanuts because I like to store peanuts because it's good, shelf stable, dry, non-refrigerated.
Though.
Yeah, but for 2 out of 3 people in this house are hypoglycemic.
Right. I'm not saying it from a nutrition standpoint. High-fat items tend to go rancid slightly faster.
Yeah. Well, this went rancid because we lost track of where it was, and we disobeyed the first in, first out rule. And by the time I opened them, I immediately slammed the lid shut, threw them in the trash.
It is not a subtle scent.
No, when the Best Buy dates hate ends in a 4, that's a bad thing.
Was there a 2 in front of that 4, Phil?
Yes.
Good.
Better than a 1.
Yeah. Or a 0. When we moved my grandparents out of their house, so my grandparents moved into their first house at 18, and they lived there until I was 18.
Okay.
Right? Long time. You want to talk about some old canned goods in the back of the pantry.
Oofta.
Oh, yeah, it happened to everybody. We found some stuff that was legitimately older than me, out of expiration. Like expired before my birth when we were moving them out of that house.
Yeah, if your canned goods are as old as the Carter administration, that could be a problem.
It was a problem. Some of them got opened as science experiments. A lot of them got shot at later. It was fun. Yeah. It smelled horrible.
Oh, I'm sure. All right, now deep storage. This is probably the one where most people are familiar with, because even most junior preparedness people are pretty familiar with the idea of a deep storage. Let's have an argument. Are you a Mylar bags or a food grade buckets person?
Depends. Because the answer is yes.
The ultimate answer.
The answer is yes. I like both, and I like both for different things and different reasons. All right. First things first. Dry grains and lentils, you can store them in a burlap sack for years, assuming your climate allows for it and that it does not get too humid and you don't get pests in them.
Yes.
But you probably do have pests in your house that will get into those things.
Guaranteed.
So what I like to do is I like to take stuff like processed goods like flour, because flour is a processed good. Mm-hmm. I like to repackage that in bags sized to our use. So, for instance, a 10-pound bag of flour, I'll usually break that down into 3 smaller packages, seal that, and throw those packages in a food grade bucket, because the packaging I'm using like the Food Saver plastics for that. Mice can get through that fairly quickly. They can get punctured fairly easily. Flour makes a hell of a mess.
Gigantic mess.
When it busts open all over your goddamn basement because you weren't paying attention to what you were doing with a stepladder. So I put those in a food grade bucket.
Oh, Nick, you must tell the story now.
Oh, I just wasn't paying attention with a stepladder, and I had flour sitting on the bar, ready to be packaged and put in a food grade bucket.
So how did the stepladder and the flour introduce themselves to each other?
So I was attempting to move a stepladder across my basement around a dog and a bunch of other shit in the middle of a construction project.
Nick.
And I turned the corner and I did the cartoon whap the thing off the table with the stepladder.
And next thing you know, it looked like Pablo Escobar was your roommate.
And that's when I found out that I had taken the filter off of my shop vac and not put it back on after we had some water come in the basement. And I made it even worse. It was a comedy of errors the whole way down.
But at least this didn't happen by an open flame.
No, it did not. It happened in a basement with a lot of LED bulbs and a horrible mess. I got it all cleaned up before my wife got home from work.
She would not have been amused.
No, actually, she probably would have been amused because it was fairly funny. Even being in the midst of the mess, this would make an excellent comedy sketch.
Like Laurel and Hardy with Hapless Husband.
Oh, absolutely. It definitely struck me as something out of the what the hell is it? Three Stooges. It's very much struck me as something out of Three Stooges.
Except it was just you and the dog.
Yeah, it was just me and the dog, a stepladder, and a box of flour. But look, food grade buckets are great. Gamma sealed lids, the threaded lids with the O-ring, phenomenal for easier access. You don't remember because I probably didn't tell you because I was embarrassed. I got the mess cleaned up before my wife got home. That's the goal of most husbands' messes.
You see, this is why you should encourage your husband to be on a podcast with his idiot friend, is you find out all the things you didn't know happened.
That's true. But I do quite like food grade buckets, especially for stuff like rice, beans, any bulk packaged items, because especially with the Gamma Seal lids, you can reseal them fairly reliably, especially if you keep extra O-rings around or you lubricate your O-rings properly, because they are a wear item.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, Phil, what do you think?
So I'm definitely a food grade buckets person. I think for deep storage, like especially because you've alluded to the humidity down here.
Yeah.
So it's not
exactly literally hell 9 months of the year where you are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not exactly a state secret. I live in South Louisiana where the humidity ranges between like 60% and go to hell.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Stuart's familiar because he has basically the same climate where he lives in Southeast Texas.
It's just slightly more steer focused.
Yeah, but very similar. Like Stuart and I have had this conversation. Like he and I have the exact same problems with our reloading gear in our garage. Because exact same climate, same humidity, same temperature swings.
Remind me to introduce you to Mold Shield.
Why?
Because it's a dry rust inhibitor.
Oh, damn that. I just use Ballistol on everything.
I mean, you could use Ballistol on everything, but this is it's almost like a dry wax film.
I have 6 cans of Ballistol on my bench.
That's fair.
It works for everything. It is a wood conditioner, is a leather conditioner, it's a rust inhibitor, it's a CLP, it's a break free. And by the way, I even use the stuff on cars because every time I've had a bolt or a nut that just looked like it was just waiting for the perfect opportunity to strip and fuck my day up because it was rusty, I get the little one of the little needle bottles that I keep loaded with Ballistol. Couple of drops, let that seep down into the threads, hit it with an impact, pops right loose.
Nice.
WD-40 can go to hell. Ballistol all day long and twice on Sunday. Use it for everything.
Yeah, WD-40 is really, it's not really a lubricant and it's not really a penetrating oil. It's a water displacement oil.
I would put Ballistol toe to toe with Croil. Having used Croil on a lot of things, I put Ballistol toe to toe with it. It has never let me down.
I will have to get back to you when I have more rusty shit to take apart. I will try both.
I'm just going to say, man, Ballistol, like it is 10 out of 10. The only thing I will use on firearms, but I keep finding ways to use on everything else because it just works so well.
You know, I'll have to get a can of Ballistol and take it to work with me because we have a customer that likes to let their molds get full of water and then sit on a shelf for 6 to 9 months and then send them in for maintenance. Their screws and things get extraordinarily rusty. I'll have to test that because we shear off a lot of bolt heads on their stuff.
So bear in mind that you can get Ballistol in like the little pressurized squirt cans, but they also sell it in an unpressurized, like a bulk container.
That's probably what I'll pick up.
Yeah. I mean, I have both because like I said, like for my little needle bottles and like, you know, stuff like that, I keep the unpressurized bottles around. It's also cheaper per ounce, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, it almost always is in a bulk pack.
But the aerosol cans are so freaking convenient just to be able to like blast, you know, put a squirt in a chamber, put a squirt on a bolt, wipe stuff down and be done. Jeff, I don't know that I would try to cook eggs with it.
Not rated for food contact.
No. And no, just don't know that I would try to go that route. Anyway,
might be an interesting flavor.
Interesting be one way to put it. Where were we? We were talking about something before I got sidetracked on lube. Oh, yes, humidity. So I tend to adhere really closely anytime we're talking about deep storage to the idea of I should be using oxygen absorbers and desiccant packs.
Where you are, I think desiccant packs are not optional.
I mean,
where I am, it depends on the time of year.
In the winter, you could probably get away without desk impacts, or if you were going to bag the stuff up in the house, where the air conditioner or the forced air heater is like drying the air out in the house, that would help a lot. But I just heard a banging noise, and I think it might have been my teenager's door.
Interesting. That sounds like a fight for another day. You know, even in the winter down by you, though, you're still looking at 40 to 60% humidity, right? Ambient.
I never said. This is definitely a do as I do, not as I say moment, because I'm telling you, I use desk impacts regardless. I'm just saying you could probably get away with it at certain times of year doing it indoors.
You can definitely get away with it in the winter around here, because there are times when the ambient humidity is like 5 to 10%. It gets bad in the winter here.
I think a desk impact and an oxygen absorber, though, is just like good, cheap insurance. Just like I've warned people in the past, I buy my oxygen absorbers off Amazon. Make sure you get them individually wrapped. It will cost more to get them individually wrapped, where you'll get like a bag, and the bag is full of individual bags, and the individual bags all have one oxygen absorber in them. Pay the extra and get them like that, because otherwise, once you rip the bag open, they're all exposed, and you got to use them all or they go bad.
Whereas you do have a limited window for those.
Whereas if you get the bag and they're all individually wrapped, then I've got like, I don't know, 7 or 8 or 9 sitting in the garage that are fine anytime I want to pop one and use them. But it's actually really easy to tell if they're working.
Oh, because it creates a vacuum effect.
Yeah, I will encourage you that if you're going to use them, you really need to be specific about filling the bucket as much as possible. Because I learned the hard way one time where I chucked one into a half full bucket, and I came back the next day and the whole bucket was half the size it started.
They'll crack buckets.
It just sucked the sides in like crazy.
Yeah. I do not use oxygen absorbers as much as a lot of people advocate for. Largely with my dry grains like rice, corn, lentils, stuff like that. Because I don't keep a very high volume of them. I'll keep a bucket or two, which is more than enough for me and my wife's goals. And we go through them fast enough that I don't notice a quality or flavor difference or degradation of them in that time period. So in, say, for rice, for instance, is the stuff that we go through the slowest, and probably within 2 years, we've gone through the rice in a 20-pound bag or a 40-pound bag, whatever it was we were buying. And rice on its own in a burlap sack will keep for 5 to 10 years without being a problem, as long as you keep it dry and pest-free.
And see, conversely, I have, I think, 3 or 4 5-gallon buckets that are food grade that are just rice and beans.
That's fair.
Literally like bags of rice, bag of beans in about equal amounts.
Sure.
And multiple buckets of that, because I'm trying to feed 3. And I very much would like to have a shelf-stable, non-refrigerator required way to feed the family that will hold us out for several months.
Yeah, I get that. I mean,
rice and beans is going to suck after about the third meal.
It sucks until you're hungry enough.
Yeah, I mean, it ain't there because it's supposed to be fun to eat. Put it that. I mean, now I'm cheating because like rice and red beans has kept many occasion out of starvation.
Yes,
and I could eat it literally 4 meals a day and be okay.
Yeah,
but the whole point is, it is there as a weapon of last resort to prevent starvation, and
or to bulk out meals in a time of economic concern.
Yeah,
I mean, look, you can take 2 chicken breasts. You can take 2 chicken breasts. Heck, you can take 1 chicken breast, a cup of beans, and a cup of rice, and feed 2 people. Probably more than 1 meal.
Let me loop in a couple of you listener questions. So, first of all, Jeff Jag saying, just realized Phil saying desiccate, not desk impact.
Yes.
Is my accent that thick?
It comes out. It comes and goes sometimes. Doesn't ever bother me.
I can't. I get varying opinions from people that listen to me talk. Some people say I have the thickest accent they've heard, and other people say I don't have an accent. Well, but our people say I have no accent at all. Now I can't hear it because I can't hear it. I mean, everybody around here sounds like I do.
Occasionally, you will slip into more of an accent. Occasionally, it's usually like one word at a time when you're busy with a separate thought.
Oh, so it's one of those things where it's like it sneaks out when I'm not thinking about it.
Absolutely does.
Interesting.
Just like some of my Midwesternisms, I'm sure that pop out now and then. The more busy your brain is, the more often I notice it. And it's not often.
That's hilarious.
That's how it works for most people.
Yeah, but I don't consciously like try to not have an accent, I guess is what I'm saying. Like
No, you don't, but you try to make yourself understood subconsciously, I think is what it is.
There might be that. I was actually talking to my wife about this. My wife grew up in North Louisiana, and I'm sure aware, most people are, that like, and Raggle can definitely attest to this because he lives down here close to where I do, but like South Louisiana and North Louisiana sound very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
And even to the point where like where I am on the North Shore and where Raggle is, that's more towards the center of the state, like the number of dialects in Louisiana is quite impressive, actually, for being kind of a smaller state. Very diverse ways of speaking. But my wife tried for years to like rid herself of, he said it's the Arkansas light, but it really does. I mean, it really does sound like, if, you know, given that like my wife grew up, I think like 10 miles from Arkansas. So like you do hear more of that. It's like the accent up there sounds more like that. But for years, she tried her best not to have that accent anymore. And I still tell the story because it's hilarious. The first time she brought me home to meet, like, I met her parents, but she brought me home to meet like the sisters and the friends and all those. As soon as we crossed into Claiborne Parish, she got a call, picked up the phone, and the voice coming out of her mouth was not the one I'd gotten accustomed to.
That's great.
And I mean, like, I was sitting in the passenger seat of our car staring at her with my mouth hanging open because like her accent flipped as soon as we crossed the parish line. It was the craziest experience of my life. To this day, there are certain words she says where I hear Claiborne Parish just lock in for a brief moment.
I believe it.
Yeah. Jim Rouse saying, I've got a lot of diversity in storage. I'm thinking about doing mostly rice and beans, been letting too much stuff expire. I will say one thing, and like, I understand why rice and beans. I get it. It's an old shelf-stable standby. It's kept a lot, not just preppers. It's kept a lot of people from starving to death over the years.
Yep.
I will offer two things if rice and beans are your primary for long-term food storage like it is mine. First and foremost, seasoning. Lots and lots and lots of seasoning. Salt, pepper, red pepper, Cajun
anything
seasoning.
You can think of.
And like diversity of seasoning, because that's the only way you're going to make a rice and bean predominant diet palatable. And the other thing is supplement with some kind of canned protein.
As much as you can, yeah.
Canned chicken, Vienna sausages, Spam. I mean, I don't care, but you need to have, like, I would personally prefer some kind of canned meat or even potted meat or something, beef jerky, anything to add protein into that rice and bean diet.
To add an additional flavor profile too. You know, Raggle brings up an interesting thing. He got a humidor as a gift, ammo can with a cedar wood box insert. Worked at first, but now it's going stale. I can tell you why. The wood's drying out.
Yep.
Your wood's drying out. What you need is either a floral sponge to put in there or a brown sugar bear. The little terracotta bears you put in your brown sugar to keep that stuff from going like a brick hard. Take a brown sugar bear, throw it in your humidor.
One thing, though, is if you do that, make sure you wet it with distilled water.
Yeah, you don't want to use tap water.
Not if you can help it.
Yeah, because it can start growing some nasties. If that's all you have, boil it first.
You can also use now any decent cigar shop, or you can go online and buy it. They you can actually get off of Amazon, but they make stuff that's called like cigar juice, and it's a mix of, is it glycol or glycogen and distilled water in a certain ratio.
Yeah, it is, and it releases humidity at a correct ratio. There are also little.
It also helps prevent mold.
Yeah, it does. The the glycogen does. There's also these little foam inserts in like a little plastic or metal can with perforations on it. You soak it with water, you throw it in the bottom of your humidor, and you're good for a few months.
Yeah.
The wood always will dry out in a humidor just naturally. Wood wants to dry out if it's dead. So you have to add some humidity back into the mix.
Yeah.
I cannot keep a humidor going appropriately in the winter in our climate. I can't.
I bet
not on a small humidor.
Not the way you're talking about, but I know how you could if you were really curious.
I know I could, but I prefer pipes over cigars anymore, so I just keep my pipe tobacco in a mason jar at its appropriate humidity.
Yeah. I was going to say, though, for Raggle, like, this doesn't really apply to a humidor the size of an ammo can. You definitely need like a floral sponge, and actually what you probably want on the initial stroke is to get some distilled water on dampen a sponge and actually dampen the wood
the
directly.
whole inside. Yep.
But the other thing of it is that you have to put cigars in that are already at the right humidity.
Because if they're already dry, you're screwed.
It's just going to suck all the water right out the wood immediately.
Yeah. It will.
It's a bit of an upkeep thing to keep a humidor going, but
it absolutely is.
But if you're in Nic's situation where you have like a forced air heater and a furnace and it's really dry, you probably need to look at active humidification.
Mm-hmm. You do, or you need to look at a larger scale humidor.
Yeah,
that's better sealed. Like a friend of mine that he keeps a lot of cigars in his house. He has a humidor built into an old refrigerator.
Yeah,
an old like college store mini fridge.
Very common, and it works very well.
It does. It works phenomenally well. He built it out himself.
Raggle, do I leave it in the wrapper or take it out? It doesn't hurt anything to leave it in the wrapper from a humidification perspective. It will discolor the wrappers over time. Mm-hmm. If that's it, to me, it's more of an aesthetic thing.
When I was buying cigars, I was buying a specific kind of cigar, and I was buying a whole box of those cigars. So they were not wrapped; they were just in a wood box. But then I would take them out of that box and put them into my humidor.
There are some cigars though that even if you buy them a box at a time, they still come individually wrapped.
Yeah, some of them do. It depends on what you're buying.
Yeah, but the wrappers are not airtight.
No, they are absolutely not airtight. You can even get individual cigar humidors, which are usually like a stainless steel or a glass that seal, so the humidity can't leave. That's okay for short term.
One thing, though, is if you go that route, understand that cigars come in different sizes.
They do.
And the individual tubes come in different sizes. And if you try to get the wrong size tube to fit the wrong size cigar, something bad is going to happen.
Yeah,
you'll either tear the wrapper, or it'll be like a hot dog down a hallway, and the cigar will just beat itself to death, rolling around in the tube.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Jeff, I do not need a humidor room. I already have a renovation ongoing. It is not a humidor room.
Boo.
But it is going to get a built-in gun safe.
That's a positive. Mm-hmm. So is there anything else to talk about in deep storage? Food grade buckets, Mylar. Like I prefer food grade buckets, but I think either is appropriate. Climate. Yeah, definitely got to know your climate and know like what you're going to be fighting against to try to maintain that food, especially because like what you're doing with deep storage is you're really trying to stretch out the viability period of the food. Like if you're talking about rice or beans that are 5 to 7 year shelf stable in a burlap sack on the ground, you're ostensibly trying to stretch this out even further, or we wouldn't be talking about deep storage. So you got to take a little bit more care to insulate it against the environment.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that your biggest obstacle is going to be your local environment. Like in my instance, it's the freezing cold. I cannot store canned foods in a garage. You just don't here. They will freeze eventually. Something's going to happen. Your garage door is going to spring like a little bit of a wind leak or something. You're going to have a minus 50 degree day. That shit will freeze, and if it does, it's probably going to pop the seal on the can from expansion. You're probably not storing a lot of water in your vehicles. I bring 2 of these with me basically wherever I go all the time, but they then come in the building with me because if I leave that in my truck for 2 hours in the winter, it's going to freeze. In the summer, it's going to get hotter than hell, but – know your climate, plan appropriately for it, and mind your rotation.
Mm-hmm. Let's chuck this last one in here. Where does what to store figure in? Because, like, I think that as much as we focused on packaging, you also have to be realistic about what you're trying to store, and is it even feasible to make it fit this application?
Yeah. And some of that's going to be based on your personal medical needs, because yours and mine are completely different.
Yeah, I mean, in the short term, quite frankly, in the short term, I'm laser focused on like high fat, high protein, because if I have carbs, if I have sugar, if I have grains, if I have bread,
it's what your body runs best on.
Yeah, but that is going to cause a blood sugar crash that is just not in my best interest. So in the short term, I am laser focused on maximizing protein and fat. Yeah. In a longer term situation, I can afford to kind of color outside the lines, because now we're looking at staving off starvation. And ostensibly, I'm not talking about a short period of high activity or hiking or whatever. I'm talking about a longer period of moderate activity. Something where I can allow my diet to flex in one direction or the other. But I think about things like, it makes no sense to try to deep storage peanut butter.
No, that's at most moderate term storage. Unless you're talking about dehydrated peanut butter, which you can get freeze-dried peanut butter, that sort of thing.
But that still goes back to what to store. Like, if you're going to try to long-term store peanut butter, you have to choose dehydrated option. If we're talking about something that is like midterm storage, we can midterm, say 0 to 6 months, all kinds of things. Most things in the packaging it came in will be fine for 6 months. But on the flip side of things, if we're talking about midterm storaging or midterm storing meat, now we have to have it has to be dehydrated. It has to be kept frozen. We have to have some consideration. So I guess my thought, or canned. But I guess my thought process is always like, yes, packaging matters so that you can insulate this thing so that it's still viable at the end of the storage period. But you also have to mix into that a little bit of what to store, so you're not pushing a freaking rope, trying to get something to do something it's not going to do. Or here's a bright idea. Mobile short-term packaging. I am not going to pack like a big old vacuum bag full of ground beef.
No.
Would it be viable in 4, 5, 6 hours if it was just left at room temperature to thaw? Hell yeah, but it's a big pack of ground beef. I now have to have a stove and things to prepare it. It'd be more to my best interest to have Mountain House, or have some beef jerky, or have some something canned that I can just pop open and eat right out of the can. Like, there has to be a point at which what we store matches what we're trying to store for.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you need to make a plan that fits your needs and fits the realities of the food products. And there's plenty of resources out there for those. If you can't find them, I don't know what you're doing. You're probably not looking. So,
Stuart, I'm not starting over.
Yeah, no.
It's on YouTube and Facebook and Rumble.
We have
for
work in the
literal
morning.
Ever. I actually don't have work in the morning. Tomorrow's my day off.
I do,
but I have,
and I have to go fight customers.
Wait, fight them how? Is this like medieval jousting, or like
metaphorically fight them?
Oh, that's less fun.
I have to tell them that what they want me to do. I have to inform college-educated professionals that what they're asking me to do is, 1, not going to solve their problem, 2, way more expensive than the actual solution, and 3, an entire waste of everyone's time in the nicest possible way.
So you can't just tell them they're stupid.
These are the engineers. If it was another machinist, I could just say, you're tarded, stop it.
But if they were machinists, they probably wouldn't be tarded.
You cannot guarantee that.
I said probably.
Probably. Maybe.
I don't know.
I
said probably.
I'm sorry. Did AI for reloading purposes?
Wait. What? No.
We have to have words with Mike.
No.
Do not use AI for reloading data at all, ever, period. End of discussion. It makes shit up and you're going to lose a hand.
Nick, would you like to tell the audience about your experience asking the murder machine on the internet questions?
So out of curiosity, when the AI search engines started becoming a thing, I played around with them because, technology's neat, could be fun. I was able to convince Google's AI that 4 plus 4 is 44 by telling it was wrong 3 times.
So what I'm hearing is that if you dog on ChatGPT enough, it'll eventually tell you that 30.5 grains of H110 is a starting charge for 357 Magnum.
Yes, probably. Look, AI, what everyone calls AI now is not intelligence. It is definitely artificial. But what it is a large language model. And all it's doing is saying, if you give me the sentence, the cat wears a hat, and someone then asks, what does a cat wear? The most mathematically correct answer is a hat. Because the only thing it's been fed is the cat wears a hat. Which means if you feed it the internet, you're just going to get the internet answer.
So if you raise AI on TikTok, you get...
which they did do.
You get just weaponized psychosis.
Look, Grok was trained on Twitter.
Oh, Christ.
Grok
pre or post Elon Twitter
doesn't matter.
I know it doesn't.
All of the stuff
but I'm
from
curious.
pre-Elon is still there. I'm pretty sure it was an Elon thing that drove most of Grok. But Google was trained off of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. All I'm saying is every idiot that you guys complain about on the internet is feeding AI their bullshit, and it is learning that bullshit.
So I just have to point this out. Gilrab said I use it to write emails and lesson plans.
It is good at completing sentences,
but I will
give you that.
But I will counter with this. An organization that shall remain nameless decided to use AI that shall remain nameless to write a training manual for an application. Mm-hmm. And then a person who shall remain nameless was asked to review this training manual that they were all very proud of because AI had whooped this up together in 35 minutes or something. Mm-hmm. Review it for accuracy. And the human being found 36 errors in 8 minutes.
Yep.
Things that are not in the application at all, like fields that were referenced in the training manual that do not exist in the application. No idea where that came from. Things that absolutely do not work the way they were explained. Just nonsense. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure all the time saved by AI writing that training guide was wiped out by the human beings having to rip it apart and redo it.
Correct answer, Gillian. You read and edit what it gives you. It is a tool like any other, and the output of any tool needs to be verified.
But this is where I think people get twisted with AI, is that what people are being told AI is and AI can do does not match what it really is capability wise and what it really is. Like AI is a tool to improve the efficiency of teams or of individuals. It is not a replacement for that team or those individuals. Will it be one day?
If life, property, or liberty are depending on the answer, do not trust AI.
And in the case of reloading data, that is definitely...
all of the above are in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little attached to my eyeballs.
Look.
And my hands.
You have a limited supply of both.
Oh, Stuart, hush. You can rewind this whole video. It's like an hour and 8 minutes of us talking about packing food and 2 minutes of autistically talking about AI.
Look, I blame Raggle for that diversion. That was not my fault this time.
Raggle has taken us off topic a couple of times here.
That's okay. It's allowed. Because you still haven't found a way for him to give you money.
Okay, I'm going to slip your wife in here. Sometimes when you need to send messages to parents, you need to sound professional.
It is very good at translating things into CorpuSpeak.
I will say this much. It is also really good at taking technobabble and turning it into English.
Yeah, that's fair. I do think translations is probably a place where AI will really shine in the future, doing live translation of things, because you can definitely teach it to do translations well, but trusting it to source data, we've already seen lawyers get their credentials revoked because they were using AI to cite legal precedent, and that legal precedent that was cited has never existed.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I will have to Google that.
Uh-huh. There was a law firm in New York that got in some big trouble because the judge... So they cited a precedent of a case that the judge they were in front of ruled on in a completely irrelevant context, and the judge remembered it.
Oh, Jesus.
Caught it. Mid-trial.
That's impressive.
Oh, yeah. They never even reviewed the precedent. They just took what AI fed them and plugged it right into their court case.
Wow. I got to tell this one story again because it's hilarious, and then we really do need to wrap this.
Fair enough.
Do you remember me telling you about the someone used an AI prompt and said, make me an image of a woman camping? Do you remember me telling you this story?
Probably. No, I don't. I mean, I'm sure.
It was a picture of a young lady sitting on like a wood stump in front of a campfire. Follow me? Inside of her tent.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The audio listeners will never appreciate the look Nick just had on his face when the square peg finally went and fell into the square hole.
Yeah, sometimes your tent gets lit on fire. Yeah, no, that's camping. Yep.
It was at that moment I looked and I was like, okay, one of two things is happening here. Either Skynet is sandbagging the shit out of us right now. Like, all I gotta do is cook up some really crazy stuff right now, and the flesh bags will never catch on that I'm about to take over their world. Or we were lied to by Hollywood, and Terminator is never going to happen.
Oh, it can be both.
It
can and is be both.
It could be both, but I'll tell you what, if Skynet's sandbagging us that hard, I'm impressed. They deserve to own the world.
The trouble is going to be that the AI that you and I get access to, the AI that any of us normal people get access to, it's not the good stuff. It's really not. And even the good stuff, it's pretty dog shit.
I mean, it's all going to fail to fulfill its promises and crash the world economy eventually.
All I'm saying is the AI companies have to increase their revenue 28 times in the next 3 to 5 years, or they can't pay their debts. Name me one industry that has increased their profits or increased their total revenue stream 28 times.
Government.
I can't think of any one of them.
Government.
Not in 3 to 5 years.
Communist.
Not in 3 to 5 years.
Communist governments.
I don't think so. They have to increase their total revenue stream by 28x in 3 to 5 years.
Well, yeah, when you massively devalue your currency and turn...
But that's not increasing your revenue.
It makes the numbers go up.
It makes the numbers go up, but it didn't actually service the debt either.
But it made the revenue go up.
Right, but so did the debt.
Mm-hmm. That's fixed in place.
And communist governments are not an industry.
Bold of you to assume the governments are not an industry.
They're not. They're not an industry. They're a parasite upon industry.
Oh, I think governments are their own type of industry. I'm not saying it's a good industry.
Could be argued. What does it create?
Pain.
Now, we've already got that.
Misfortune.
They've got to create something else. We've got that too.
Slavery.
No, government didn't create slavery. Slavery was a private institution first.
Yes, but government made people enslave themselves and not realize it. Oh, Raggle says warfare?
Do chimpanzees have government? Because chimpanzees have warfare.
I would argue that any large enough communal animal does develop some sort of social hierarchy, which is a primitive form of government.
That's fair.
Anyway, we're not drunk enough to have that conversation, and we need to end this because you have work in the morning, and I have other kinds of work in the morning. But
fair.
That would be a fun episode for next week, maybe.
Yeah.
We bring some booze.
We could.
And we talk about how it is impossible for human beings to not create government.
Yeah, we can talk about that. That'd be fun.
Because I have really pissed off a lot of friends of mine that are like hardcore anarchists and told them that anarchy is impossible.
It really is. The second you have two people, you have one person in charge of a single task, you no longer have anarchy.
Yeah. I mean, I've tried to explain to them like it's literally it's antithetical to human behavior, and it's antithetical
to complex animal behavior.
Yeah, which human beings are complex animals.
Yeah, it's even antithetical to plant behavior.
Ooh, we're gonna piss everybody off with that one.
Probably.
All right, let's punt this one out the door. If you liked us talking about food packaging, then you should leave a comment. And if you hated it, you should also leave a comment because, tickle the algorithm and the tism a little bit. And we'll talk to you another week. Good night, everybody.
Night.